Hello friends, what's happening? It's Crim and welcome to today's video where we will talk about a bunch of rogue changes and some Covenant tunings as well. But first let's touch on the big news of the last few days, which was a blue post released by Blizzard stating that the release of the Shadowlands expansion has been postponed. It will no longer release late in October, but will instead be later in 2020 with no date given. I'm not going to spend a whole video giving my thoughts on it. I think it's a great decision by Blizzard and I hope that the end result is something we can all enjoy. And with that out of the way, let's move on to this latest beta build and more importantly, the rogue changes within it. Let's start by having a look at the Covenant ability tunings. With the latest beta build, Blizzard also released a blue post stating that they had been working on the tuning of these abilities for a lot of classes, but that they weren't quite there yet. However, they decided to push what they had already to give players a chance to test them, give feedback and to see what to expect in the future. For rogues this meant two things: firstly a nerf to the Necrolord's Bonespike ability, and secondly a buff to Kyrian's echoing Reprimand. This buff came in the form of an attack power coefficient buff, where before this was 60%, it had been buffed to 135% in this latest build, a buff of more than double what it was before. By extension, this has also buffed the associated Echoing Reprimand Conduit, which further increases the damage of the ability by 50%. The mini-game that a lot of people weren't too happy about matching combo points, is still there, however it is slightly less impactful now. If you do match the combo points though and you get the 7 combo point finisher, this now also works towards cooldown reduction passives such as Restless Blades for Outlaw or Deepening Shadows for Subtlety. The Necrolord Bonespike nerfs probably didn't come as a surprise to many rogues because it was incredibly strong, and when the nerf came, it came in 3 parts. The first of those was the removal of the fracture mechanic. Whenever you used Bonespike, this mechanic would deal additional damage based on how many Bonespikes were already out at the time. It was incredibly buggy and also extremely powerful, so probably needed removing to begin with. The second nerf was to the instant damage that Bonespike dealt, and this was another attack power coefficient nerf, from 60% down to 30%, so cut in half. The third nerf was to the permanent bleed that Bonespike applies, and this was also nerfed from 60%, however this went down to 10%, reducing the bleed damage by an incredible amount. Both the Kyrian buffs and the Necrolord nerfs have done a great deal to bring all of the Covenant choices much closer together. However, as Blizzard said, it is not final yet. It gives hope for the future though that Blizzard is indeed looking at all of these things. Let's shift our focus now to the spec specific changes, and this is where I would love to talk about Assassination if they had any changes, which again they haven't. I'm really hoping we'll see some change to the spec in the near future because it is kind of in a bad way at the moment. Outlaw, however, did get some changes, notably to the Between the Eyes spell and its debuff that it applies to the target. In early beta, this used to give you both extra crit damage on the target and increased critical strike chance. It was shortly afterwards changed to just give you critical strike damage, and in this latest build now just gives you increased critical strike chance instead. This is a reasonable buff to single target, but especially good in AoE. This is because the extra critical strike damage was coded in such a way that it did not blade flurry onto other targets, while the extra critical strikes that you will generate through the extra crit chance of the debuff do flurry to other targets. And speaking of blade flurry, it was also changed to now apply all poisons to the targets that it hits. Both of these changes have done a lot to bump Outlaw's spot in Mythic Plus up a bit in Shadowlands, where Sub used to be the #1 spot. And as for Subtlety, Shadow Vault received a very slight nerf to its damage, but more interestingly, there was an interesting buff to Shadowstrike itself. Not only that, the tooltip for Shadowstrike was also changed to now say it was usable from 25 yards away. Interestingly, I think this is just a coding merge gone wrong, where the Shadowstrike from Stealth spell has accidentally been merged with the Shadowstrike from Shadow Dance spell, and I'm sure this will be rectified in the near future. As is always the case, everything in the beta can still change and is subject to tuning, but at least for now our Kyrian friends can rejoice, and you are once again up to date on all things Rogue. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you have been enjoying the content, and leave a comment if you have any questions. You can always come chat to me at my stream, twitch.tv/CrimWow, and I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.